Every week begins the same way, a Monday morning, a fresh start. But most people jump into the week like a soldier dropping into a battlefield. No map, no mission, just a calendar full of meetings and a brain full of stress. We open our inboxes before we open our eyes. We look at our to-do list before we remember who we are. And somewhere in between answering emails and checking off tasks, we forget the most important thing, why we're doing any of this in the first place. You see, the danger in starting with what needs to be done, what's urgent, what's next, is that we start reacting instead of leading. We live in a world obsessed with doing. Hustle, grind, achieve, deliver. And while action is necessary, purposeful action is what actually creates meaning. It's the difference between running on a treadmill and running toward a destination. One exhausts you, the other moves you forward. When we start our week with what, we step into a reactive posture. We hand over control of our time, our energy, our decisions to everything and everyone around us. The meetings set by others, the problems created by others, the deadlines imposed by others. And before long, we start to feel like a passenger in our own life. Productive, maybe, but not fulfilled. But there's another way to begin your week, a way that puts you in the driver's seat, a way that grounds your energy, focuses your actions, and restores your clarity. You start with why. Not your company's mission statement, not a motivational quote, not something you saw on social media. Your why, the reason you get out of bed, the thing that makes your work matter, the impact you want to have, the people you want to serve, the values you want to embody. That deep internal compass that reminds you that you're not just here to get things done, you're here to make things better. And when you begin your week by connecting to your why, something powerful happens. You stop chasing approval and start choosing alignment. You stop reacting to the noise and start responding with intention. You look at your calendar not as a list of burdens, but as an opportunity to bring your purpose to life. The same meetings, the same emails, the same tasks, but now you're showing up differently. Let me give you an example. Let's say you lead a team. If your week begins with, I need to get through all my one-on-one-s, your energy will reflect that. You'll be present, but not really. You'll check the box, but not connect. Now imagine if you begin your week by asking, why do I lead? And you remind yourself, because I believe people deserve to be seen, heard, and empowered to grow. Now your one-on-one-s aren't just meetings. They're moments of impact. Last task, completely different intention. This isn't just motivational fluff. It's strategic clarity. Purpose isn't something soft, it's something strong. It anchors you in storms, it guides your decisions, it filters your focus. In a world where everything is urgent, purpose reminds you what's important. And when you begin your week with that in mind, you become less distracted, less reactive, and far more effective. And here's the part most people don't realize. Starting with why isn't a one-time reflection. It's a ritual, just like brushing your teeth or checking your calendar. Every Monday or Sunday evening, if that's your style, you need to make space for that internal alignment. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it takes. Ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? What matters most this week? Who do I want to be in the midst of all the noise? And don't just ask, write it down. Speak it out loud. Make it real, because clarity is not passive, it's active. If you don't define your why, someone else will define it for you. Your manager, your clients, your competitors, the algorithm. That's the risk of beginning with what. You become a reaction to someone else's agenda. The most grounded leaders I've met, the ones who inspire without trying, the ones who lead with calm amidst chaos, they all have this one thing in common. They start with their calendar. They start with their cause. And it's not always grand. It's not always world-changing. Sometimes it's as simple as, I want to help people feel more human in a digital world. Or I want to create things that make life a little easier for someone else. That's enough. That's powerful, because once you know your why, you know where to point your compass. Everything else becomes a choice, not a chore. Now imagine this. Imagine if every Monday, instead of dreading the week ahead, you began with a sense of mission. Imagine walking into your tasks with energy, not anxiety. Imagine knowing that even when things go sideways, and they will, you still know who you are and what you're here to do. That's not just a better week, that's a better life. So the next time you catch yourself reaching for your phone on Monday morning to check your email or scroll your schedule, pause. Take a breath and ask yourself a different question. Not, what do I have to do today, but why does today matter? Ask yourself, who needs me to show up with purpose today? Ask yourself, how can I make this week a reflection of what I believe? Because when you begin with why, you stop chasing outcomes and start creating impact. You stop surviving the week and start shaping it. That's how you begin every week. Not with urgency, but with meaning. If we want to make a difference in the world, whether in our company, our family, or our community, we have to lead. But leadership doesn't begin with titles. It doesn't start in the boardroom or on a stage. Leadership starts much earlier. It starts with you. And more specifically, it starts with your decision to lead yourself before you try to lead anyone else. Most people never pause to realize this. And they wake up on a Monday morning and jump straight into action. They go from one commitment to another, pouring out their energy, trying to support others, manage teams, answer emails, handle emergencies, put out fires. They think that showing up for everyone else is what makes them a great leader. And yes, showing up for others is essential. But if you haven't shown up for yourself first, then you're showing up from a place of emptiness, not strength. There's a reason why flight attendants say to put your own oxygen mask on first. It's not selfish, it's responsible. Because if you pass out, you're no help to anyone. The same is true in life and leadership. If you enter the week burned out, distracted, unclear, misaligned with your values, how can you possibly expect to lead anyone else with intention? Self-leadership is not about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's the decision to check in with yourself before you check off tasks. It's looking in the mirror and asking, where am I emotionally right now? What am I carrying that I haven't addressed? Am I bringing clarity or confusion into the spaces I walk into? When you start your week by leading yourself, by grounding yourself in self-awareness, humility, and purpose, then your leadership becomes real. Not performative, not positional, real. The people around you don't need you to be superhuman. They need you to be grounded. They need to feel your consistency, your presence, your alignment. And that kind of leadership only shows up when you've taken the time to lead yourself first. The leader who takes 15 minutes on a Monday morning to journal, reflect, breathe, think, that leader is infinitely more effective than the one who rushes into a team meeting already running on fumes. So what does it actually mean to lead yourself? It's not abstract, it's incredibly practical. It starts with intentional check-ins. Every week, before you dive into your obligations, ask yourself a few core questions. What kind of person do I want to be this week? What values will I lead with? What boundaries do I need to protect my energy? Where do I need to grow? What's one thing I can do to take care of myself so that I can be of service? These questions don't take long to ask, but they change everything because they shift your mindset from passive to proactive, from scattered to centered, from reactive to responsive. You no longer enter your week trying to survive it. You step into your week ready to shape it. We talk so much about time management, but time doesn't need to be managed. You need to be managed. Your focus, your energy, your mindset, your choices. That's leadership. Leadership is not about doing more. It's about becoming more intentional with what you already do. You can't outsource that. You can't delegate that. Only you can do that work. I once spoke with a founder who was constantly exhausted. He'd love his mission, he'd love his team, but he was drained all the time. He asked me, how do I keep inspiring them when I don't feel inspired myself? And my answer was simple. Inspiration begins with you. If you're disconnected from your own purpose, your own clarity, your own peace, your team will feel that. People don't follow what you say, they follow what you embody. Leadership is not about delivering perfect speeches or coming up with all the right strategies. It's about being someone worth following. Someone who reflects stability in unstable times. Someone who radiates clarity in moments of chaos. Someone who makes decisions from a place of alignment, not panic. And that kind of person isn't born, they're built. every single week, one intentional decision at a time. The most powerful leaders I know don't begin their week by diving into tasks. They begin by calibrating their inner compass. They sit down in silence. They check in with themselves. They reflect. They ask questions. They center their energy. Because they know whatever I bring into this week, into this team, into this company, it will either multiply confusion or multiply clarity. And I choose clarity. This isn't about self-care in the trendy sense. It's deeper than that. It's about stewardship. You are responsible for your mindset, your reactions, your tone, your presence. You can't walk into a room full of people needing direction if you haven't taken the time to find direction within yourself. Self-leadership is what allows you to show up with intention, not insecurity. It also gives you resilience. Because when things go wrong, and they will, your ability to respond with grace, composure, and perspective is directly tied to the work you've done internally. When you've led yourself well, setbacks don't shake your foundation, you're anchored. And people feel that. People follow that. So this is how you begin every week, not with chaos, not with urgency, not with distraction. You begin with yourself. You look inward before you move outward. You pause before you press forward. You ground before you lead. Because leadership isn't something you turn on once the Zoom call starts or once you walk into the office. Leadership is something you carry with you into every room. And you can't carry what you haven't built. You want to lead a team, lead yourself first. You want to make a difference, be different first. You want to change culture, start with the culture of your own thoughts, habits, and choices. That's the only place sustainable leadership begins. That's the only place true influence is born. Because the truth is, people won't remember everything you said this week. They may not remember everything you did, but they will remember how they felt around you. And how they felt around you will always reflect how you've led yourself. Every week, we sit down and make plans. We list out our goals. We set deadlines. We map our priorities. We create roadmaps and checklists and metrics, all in the name of progress. But somewhere in that process, something subtle and profound often gets lost. In our obsession with what we want to achieve, we forget to define how we want to show up. We forget that it's not just about what we get done, it's about the tone we set while we're doing it. Anyone can set a goal. I want to finish this project. I want to make more sales. I want to lose 5 pounds. Goals are useful. They give us direction. But they don't give us identity. They don't tell us who we're becoming in the process. They don't shape how we treat people along the way. And they certainly don't guide our presence in the day-to-day grind. That's why when you begin your week, you shouldn't just set a goal. You should set a tone. The tone you choose isn't about tasks, it's about character. It's about how you want to feel, how you want others to feel around you. It's the emotional climate you choose to create. And like a thermostat in a room, it affects everyone, whether they're aware of it or not. The tone you bring into a meeting, a conversation, a conflict, a deadline, it shapes how others respond, how they engage, how they contribute. And perhaps most importantly, it shapes how you experience the week. There are weeks when things go wrong. That's just life. Projects fall behind, emails go unanswered, people miss the mark. But if your tone for the week is one of curiosity or grace or calm, you won't be thrown off by the chaos. You'll respond with intention, not reactivity. You'll choose to ask, not accuse, to listen, not just speak. And that changes everything. Because tone is contagious. People mirror it. They take their cues from it. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're setting a tone every single time you show up. Imagine the difference between walking into a week thinking, I need to prove myself, versus I want to be present. One drives you to perform, to chase validation, to control outcomes. The other grounds you in connection, awareness, and trust. Same meetings, same tasks, but a completely different emotional experience. One leaves you exhausted, the other leaves you fulfilled. We live in a culture obsessed with what's measurable: revenue, KPIs, deadlines, conversion rates. But the things that actually define our experience, the things that determine whether we enjoy our work, trust our team, or feel proud of who we are, those things aren't always measurable. Tone isn't in a spreadsheet. But it is in every relationship, every moment of conflict, every act of generosity, every time someone feels heard or dismissed. And when you start your week by choosing that tone consciously, you create a ripple effect that's far more powerful than hitting any target. Think about the leaders who've impacted you the most. Chances are, it wasn't just what they accomplished that inspired you, it was how they carried themselves. Maybe it was their calm in a storm, or their compassion in a crisis. Maybe it was their consistency, their quiet strength, their ability to make you feel valued. That wasn't about strategy, that was tone. And it wasn't an accident, they chose it. Now imagine what happens when you start your Monday with the question, what tone do I want to set this week? Do I want this to be a week of courage, where I speak up even when it's uncomfortable? A week of patience, where I slow down and listen instead of rushing to respond? A week of creativity, where I look for new ideas and welcome mistakes as part of the process? These aren't soft intentions, they are strategic commitments. Because tone influences behavior, and behavior builds culture. Now, this matters even more if you're in a position of leadership, because people are always watching. Not in a judgmental way, in a human way. They're picking up on your mood, your energy, your expressions, your timing. They feel your tone before they understand your words. If you're anxious, they'll feel pressure. If you're dismissive, they'll shut down. If you're hopeful, they'll believe they can try. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be intentional. And here's the beautiful part. Tone isn't controlled by your circumstances, it's controlled by your decision. You don't need a perfect week to choose a generous tone. You don't need a peaceful calendar to choose a peaceful attitude. Tone is something you decide, not something you wait for. You could be facing a dozen stressful meetings and still choose to lead with warmth. You could be buried in work and still choose to speak with kindness. That's power. That's presence. That's leadership. Tone also helps you reconnect to your purpose when things get hard, when the to-do list grows faster than your capacity, when you lose sight of the bigger picture. Returning to your chosen tone brings clarity. You remember, oh, right, I'm not just here to get things done. I'm here to create something meaningful. I'm here to leave people better than I found them. I'm here to live what I believe, even in the smallest moment. That's what tone does. It brings soul back to strategy. So the next time you're sitting down on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, planning out your week, don't stop at what you need to do. Go one step further. Ask yourself, who do I want to be while I do it? Because when the meetings are over, when the emails are gone, when the goals have been hit or missed, what people will remember is not your output. It's your presence. You're going to walk into rooms this week where your tone will either uplift or suppress. Isolate you. It's either build trust or create tension. It will either align people or fracture connection. And every time you get to decide, not once, every day, every meeting, every moment, start with tone. Because when you get that right, the goals tend to follow. There's something we tend to overlook in our pursuit of productivity. We're so busy focusing on what we need to accomplish that we forget to pay attention to who we're walking through the week with. We talk about strategy, we talk about goals, we talk about performance, but we don't talk enough about connection. We don't talk enough about people. And people are everything. Every great idea was brought to life by a team. Every bold decision was made easier or harder by the quality of relationships behind it. Every workplace culture, whether it lifts people up or breaks them down, begins with human connection. Not just communication, not just collaboration, connection. The emotional glue that holds people together when things get messy, when tensions rise, when uncertainty sets in. So when you start your week, one of the most important things you can do is identify the key people you need to intentionally connect with. Not for a status update, not to assign tasks, but to build trust, to align, to listen, to support. Because without that, everything else becomes harder than it needs to be. Connection isn't a nice to have, it's a must have. It's not the thing you squeeze in if there's time. It's the thing that gives all your time meaning. And if you don't choose to prioritize it, you will default to transactions. You'll talk to people when you need something. You'll check in only when there's a problem. You'll treat relationships like tools instead of ecosystems. And over time, that creates distance, mistrust, disengagement. Now here's the thing, connection doesn't require grand gestures. It starts with simple human questions. How are you really doing? What's been hard for you lately? What are you excited about this week? How can I support you better? These are not productivity questions, these are relationship questions. And they matter far more than most of the things that get our attention on Monday morning. We underestimate how much power lives in a 5-minute conversation, in a check-in that isn't about performance, in a moment of silence where someone feels safe enough to tell the truth. That's where connection is built. Not in all-hands meetings or performance reviews, but in quiet, ordinary moments where people feel seen, heard, and valued. So before the week begins in full swing, take a moment, ask yourself, who do I need to reconnect with this week? Who on my team is drifting right now? Who's been quieter than usual? Who's been carrying more than they let on? Who might benefit from a moment of encouragement or a question that shows you actually care? That's leadership. Not solving every problem, not being the loudest voice, not knowing all the answers, but noticing, being present enough to see what others might miss, and then choosing to lean in. Because when people feel connected, they give more, they collaborate better, they recover faster, they trust deeper. And in a world where most people feel overworked and underseen, your attention is one of the most generous gifts you can offer. Connection also helps resolve problems before they become conflicts. It allows you to give feedback without breaking rapport. It gives people the benefit of the doubt because there's already a foundation of trust in place. You're not just coworkers, you're allies. And that's the difference between surviving a hard week and growing through it. I remember speaking with a leader once who told me, my team performs well, but they feel disconnected. It's like we're all in the same building, but on different islands. That's not uncommon, especially when we let urgency override humanity. We forget that even the most skilled, motivated people need to feel belonging, not just inclusion, belonging. The sense that you matter here. That someone would notice if you weren't around, that who you are is more important than what you produce. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens when someone chooses to connect. When someone says, I see you, I hear you, I care about you, even when we're behind schedule. And the best time to make that choice is right now. At the start of the week, before things get hectic, before your calendar fills up, before you slip into autopilot. Because once the week is in motion, it's easy to forget. It's easy to trade connection for efficiency. But that trade is always more costly than it appears. You can't optimize your way into trust. You can't automate empathy. You have to show up for it. You have to choose it again and again. Even 5 minutes of real presence can change a person's day. A small moment of shared laughter. A message that says, you've been doing a great job, and I just wanted you to know I see that. A quick call that says, hey, no agenda, just checking in. These aren't distractions from work. They are the work. Because work without connection becomes soul draining, and no metric can fix that. So when you begin your week, take a different approach. Before you ask, what do I need to accomplish? Ask, who do I need to connect with? Think about your team, your colleagues, your clients, your family, your friends. Think about the people who trust you, the people who depend on your energy, your clarity, your compassion, and make time for them. Make space for the human side of leadership. Because at the end of the week, when the tasks are done and the reports are filed, what people will carry with them won't be your speed, it'll be your presence. Not your efficiency, but your empathy. Not your perfection, but your ability to make them feel like they weren't walking through it alone. That's the impact of connection. It's quiet, it's subtle, it's invisible on a spreadsheet, but it's unforgettable in someone's heart. Every week presents a choice, not just a list of tasks or goals, but a deeper decision. Will I move through this week intentionally, or will I simply react to it? That one question, asked honestly, has the power to shape the course of your week and eventually your life. The truth is, most people don't live with intention, they live with momentum. They wake up and start reacting to everything that's coming at them. Emails, meetings, problems, notifications, requests. From the moment they check their phones, they're no longer choosing their day. Their day is choosing them. And after 5 days of reacting, they reach Friday wondering where the week went, wondering why they still feel disconnected, wondering why they were so busy, yet feel like they didn't actually move forward. This is the great danger of a reactive life. It can feel full while being completely unfulfilling. Because doing more isn't the same as doing what matters. Movement isn't progress if it's in the wrong direction. And success, at least the kind that leaves you with peace and pride, never happens by accident. It happens when we choose to live on purpose. That starts at the beginning of the week. Intentionality is about clarity. It's the willingness to pause long enough to ask, what matters most this week? Not what's most urgent, not what's loudest, not what everyone else expects. What matters most? The moment you ask that question, you step into a different kind of leadership. The kind that isn't shaped by pressure, but by principle. Living with intention doesn't mean you control everything. In fact, the most intentional people I know are not the ones who have the perfect schedule. They're the ones who know what they stand for, even when the schedule falls apart. They're not thrown off by change because their compass is internal, not external. Their priorities are chosen, not imposed. That's why the beginning of the week is so important. It's the moment where you either reclaim that compass or hand it over. It's where you either set the rhythm or let the noise take over. And one of the most powerful ways to step into intentionality is by identifying your non-negotiables. The things that no matter how chaotic things get, you will not compromise. A non-negotiable might be something simple but powerful, taking 30 minutes to yourself every morning before work. It might be scheduling a one-on-one with a team member who's been slipping through the cracks. It might be keeping your phone away during dinner with your family. It might be protecting one afternoon each week to do deep, uninterrupted creative work. These are the anchors that keep you from drifting. These are the declarations of what matters most. Not in theory, but in action. But you can't wait until midweek to define them. Because by Wednesday, the demands are already pouring in. By Thursday, your energy is stretched. By Friday, you're running on whatever's left. If you don't define what matters before the week defines you, you'll always be at the mercy of everything and everyone around you. There's a word I come back to often when I think about intentionality: alignment. When you're aligned, your actions and your values match. There's harmony between what you believe and how you behave. And the most fulfilling weeks, the ones where you look back and feel proud, not just productive, are the ones where alignment was present. That's why it's not enough to just get things done. You have to ask, did I live out what I believe? And that's not always easy, because life is noisy. The inbox is full. The meetings are stacked. The calendar doesn't slow down just because you want to be more intentional. Which is why it's not about waiting for perfect conditions. It's about making a choice anyway, even in the chaos. I remember a conversation I had with a leader who told me, I feel like I'm constantly reacting, like I'm just playing defense all week long. And I said, then maybe it's time to stop asking what you need to do and start asking who you want to be. Because when you know who you want to be, when you define the values that will guide your decisions, the kind of presence you want to bring, the kind of leader, parent, partner, or friend you want to be, the doing follows. It becomes easier to say no to what doesn't matter. It becomes easier to navigate difficult conversations. It becomes easier to protect your energy, your focus, your soul. Intention is not about control, it's about commitment. Control says, I need everything to go according to plan. Intention says, even when things fall apart, I won't forget what I stand for. That's where true confidence comes from. Not from knowing every step in advance, but from trusting that you'll show up with integrity no matter the terrain. So as the new week begins, give yourself the gift of slowing down for just a few minutes, sit in silence, reflect. Ask yourself, what really matters to me this week? What kind of presence do I want to bring into my work, into my relationships, into my own life? Write it down, speak it out loud, declare it to someone who will hold you to it. Because the moment you choose your intention, your week starts to take shape. Not based on pressure, but on purpose. And here's the beauty of it. The more you practice intention, the less exhausting your week becomes. Not because it's less busy, but because you're no longer chasing everything. You're choosing what matters. And when you choose what matters, you stop pouring energy into things that drain you. You stop reacting to every ping and start responding to what aligns with your mission. That's how burnout is prevented. That's how fulfillment is built. One intentional week at a time. So don't let this week be another blur. Don't hand it over to urgency. Don't let your calendar dictate your character. Begin with intention. Begin with clarity. Begin with a decision. I will not just survive this week. I will live it with purpose. Because when you begin your week on purpose, you give everyone around you permission to do the same. And that is the beginning of a very different kind of culture. One where people don't just work, they thrive.